I want to thank everybody for joining me. This is the Big Homie Rod on the Big Homie Rod's podcast. Uh, it's a new podcast. It's the inaugural um, podcast, so I'm very excited. Trying something new. I've always felt like I've had a book in me, but instead of having a book, I figured why not just talk and put it on a podcast, be it no one ever hears it, or be it plenty of people hear it, and maybe one day get enough people to listen and subscribe and like and share it. Possibly we can do live phone calls, but until then, I will enjoy it by just going on and having these conversations and talking to and putting it on my podcast. And my show is pretty much going to be about a bunch of different things. It's not really. I mean, it's just going to be about life in general, random things. My take on certain things, especially the stuff that I hear on, be it on the radio, TV, just or stuff that I observe out in the streets. So, like I said, I just want to thank you for joining me on this inaugural podcast. I think this first one I'll start about women and men. It's men. If we were, I want to say, if we were a whole lot more honest with women, I think we could go a whole lot further with our partner if we were honest up front. Now that goes both ways. So if she was saying, if the woman that you were talking about or interested in was at a point to where she could say, you know what, if you guys got together and talked and she said, you know what, I'd like for a man to be this. And you say, well, you know what, that ain't my cup of tea. So, you can exchange numbers and just chat and keep it cordial like that. Or you could just tell her, hey, you know what, I don't think that's going to work out for me, and be on your merry way. Actually, that's happened to me before. I was on this app, this dating app, and because, I don't get paid to talk about it, and so I'm not going to put its name out there, but I was on this app, and, I love Latin women. I'm not going to be shameful. I love all women, but I love Latin women. It's just something about them. And so there was one that stood out, and, I took a chance because usually with most Latin women, you have to have someone that like a friend that gets you into the party to where they say, oh, well, you know what, he seems to be okay because that person who is Latin brought them to the party. So maybe if he comes and talks to me, then it'll be cool. He's not a bad dude, because that's kind of the way they look at, if you're not a Latin guy, that you're a bad dude until they see that you're not a bad dude. But needless to say, so I text her on the app, and she responded like the next day, and we eventually exchanged numbers through the app and started texting from off of our own cellular plans. So we just started talking and texting and talking on the phone, and I mean, she just sounded so sweet and just so nice, like like someone that I wanted to I could kick it with, and then we get to know each other and we see where it went. So, being up front, one day she just said, let's go out on a date. So we go to the date. I take her, a little gift and stuff, something she wasn't expecting, but something that I heard her say that she really liked while we were talking on the phone. And so I just, me being myself, being a man who cares, I took it upon myself to do those things. Here it is. So we're on a date, and we're sitting there and we're talking and all this kind of stuff. And she states to me, that, that she was married, and that the husband he was somewhat crazy and all this kind of stuff, I mean, he's the Spanish dude. Now, I'm not going to say all Spanish dudes are like that, but some of those guys, they are like really over top with the machismo. And so you know, up front, she tells me, he wanted to get a gun and all this kind of stuff. And I didn't think that it would be smart for her to get a gun, for him to get a gun. And so I'm sitting there thinking to myself, like, wait a minute. I own 3 firearms. Is this going to be an issue? Now, I could have not said anything, or I could have just been up front like I was. Now, I could have just hidden it and then just waited and made a date. And, hindsight is 2020. I could have made a date, took her there to the shooting range. We go in, we shoot guns. She sees, that they're okay. It's just, what is that person that's actually shooting the gun? What is their mental mind state? Because the gun does nothing. The gun does nothing without the person behind it. Just like all of these mass, killings out here. But that's neither, we'll save that for another topic for another day. But I just came out and said it, being up front, because I could have been up front and said, "Ooh, I think you're very beautiful. You have really nice features, really nice feet, and all the shape that I like and all of that kind of." I could have been really up front, but I was not that up front because, some women could think, "Oh man, you know what? He might be a bit of a pervert, or I'm not ready for that," or they're more, more, held back because they've been hurt and they don't want to feel like, they don't want to let their sexual tension that they've built up from seeing other men being sensual with their women, or watching movies or what have you, or glancing over a piece of their skin that turned them on, but yet not doing anything to act on it, such as masturbation. And that's another topic. We'll save that for another day. But so, I didn't say, I didn't so much as, how can I say this? I didn't so much as tell her everything, but I told her, I own firearms. Is that a deal breaker? And now, mind you, we've sat there on this date. Now, she told me on the phone, she was like, if you can't make it past the first 10 to 15 minutes, you have no chance with me. So we're sitting there and it's an hour or so later. So I'm like, okay, this is going to work. We are in with this girl. All we have to do is not mess it up. And I know she was always talking about, be careful with me, be easy with me, take your time with me. And I thought, that's what I was doing. I was taking my time with her, but I couldn't hold back on the fact that when she said she was, that her ex-husband wanted to get a firearm and she thought he was crazy. And I'm like, I own firearms. So I just came out and told her, well, I own firearms. Is that a deal breaker? And that's when she says, in a way, yes. So I'm saying to myself, well, there's pretty much no reason for us to continue sitting here because that's a deal breaker. And me just trying to say no, listen, and beg and try to do anything to change her mind. Her mind was made up from her ex-husband, which is the thing about this topic is, men, don't ruin it for the next guy, and women, don't ruin it for the next man, because we've all been hurt. We've all have had our hearts pulled out, like on The Simpsons, and Bart was in love with that little girl, and they was in there, and in his mind, when he saw something, and she just was like, you don't need that, and reached in and pulled his heart out, because that's the way he felt. We've all felt that way, but when we shut ourselves off, we feel like there's no one else that can do what we need for them to do. There's no one else. And that's totally false. That's totally false. We can have as many relationships as we want. We can have as many go on as many dates as we'd like. But we have to forget about what that person did because what happens is that, we have, people out here that think that, well, I'm going to watch you, because I was dating this other chick, this other Hispanic chick, and her thing was she always watched me to see what I did that reminded her of her ex. Instead of looking at me for me, she always looked at what I did that reminded me of her ex. And I thought that was just so wrong. It was like, it was always set up for failure, and when I had heard that, and don't get me wrong, I care about her today? I do. Are we together? No. We were together for almost 3 years, and she didn't speak hardly any English. She knew how to order at McDonald's and order at Pizza Hut. But as far as that goes, there was no, her children, which were born, she was born here. She was born in LA and was taken to Mexico. And that's where she was raised, in Mexico. So she didn't learn any English, and she hardly knows any now. But her children, who she always has with her, well, not always, but majority of the time that has with her, they are the ones that speak English for her. But because I cared about her, and she just did it for me, she really did it for me. So I took it upon myself to learn Spanish. Now, I'm not saying I am 100% fluent, like I know every word in their Spanish dictionary. No, I don't. But I know about 300. I know how to have a really good conversation. Some words, like, they might use some slang. So I don't know slang, but I know but I know how to speak Spanish. And what I have heard from a lot of Spanish speaking people is you speak really good Spanish. It sounds really good. But some of it is I speak Spanish like I speak English. So therefore it's different. But I have gotten to where I understand, how to say, like, we might say, go over there and get that red box. And they might say, how would they say that? Recoger de caja rojo, which is go and pick up the box red, which is, no, that's not, but in my mind, it's incorrect, but in their mind, that's how it's spoken. But that's me just running on. But like I say, I was in this relationship with this woman, rather. And she will bend over backwards, spend her last dime, do everything for the man that she loves, the man that she cares about, which at that time, that was me. She would do anything for me. I remember one time she said, if I saw a woman looking at you, but you didn't see her, and she was looking at you some type of way and being and out, she said, I would go over and slap her in her face and kick her in her hot pussy. Those are her words, not mine. So I'm sitting there saying to myself, like, dang, girl, you kind of crazy. She say, no, I'm in love with you, and don't no woman need to be looking at you like I look at you, because I know what that look means. And I'm like, okay, I get it. But but one of her downsides is her jealousy was so bad, her jealousy. And it's because those guys before ruined it for me. And I cared about this chick. I really cared about her. I learned Spanish. Let's say that. Now, granted, I'm not going to say I learned it because of how many people are in the United States that speak Spanish and all this kind of stuff. I don't know the percentage. It's a pretty decent percentage. And the Hispanic people are everywhere, and they're brown people, just like myself. So, and they face the same sets of challenges that my people face. So, but I learned it because I cared, and then at the same time, here I am learning a language, and I never asked her to learn English. I didn't care if she learned English. That's not what our relationship